want you to turn to Acts chapter 5. We're still studying this one paragraph in Acts chapter 5. It begins at verse 17 and goes down through verse 21. We probably got 2 more studies today and next Sunday on this, and then we'll be moving into Matthew again in the Sermon on the Mount. So Acts chapter 5, verse 17 through 21. The scene, of course, is that the lame beggar has been healed. Peter and John the 2 apostles have come through to the gate beautiful, grabbed him by the hand, yanked him to his feet. It is such a phenomenal miracle because everybody knows him, and there was no denying the miracle at all. And Peter begins to preach in the temple to the crowd that's gathered. There's quite a crowd because 5,000 men got saved, so there's quite a crowd there. And as he begins to preach, this group that we're dealing with, the high priest, the Sadducees, got all bent out of shape, stomped in, interrupted the meeting, grabbed Peter and John, yanked them down to jail. Put them in jail over the night, got them out the next morning, interrogated them, asked them to explain by what right they have to do this. And of course, he talks to them about Jesus. They are so upset about all of this that they threaten them. They can't really do anything to them because the crowds are behind them. Everybody's talking about the miracle. How are you going to deny this? So there's no way out of it. But they threaten them never to talk about Jesus again. And if you talk about Jesus again, we're going to do to you what we did to him. So the threat of life is upon them. They go back to the early church and tell the early church all that's going on. And revival broke out. More revival took place. More miracles took place. More people are getting saved. The movement of God is greater than it's ever been before. And then you come to this scene. The leaders are still bent out of shape. They're all upset because the apostles did not do what they told them to do. They went out and spread the name of Jesus more than ever before. And here's the result of that. So this is the second scene where they brought them in, verse 17. Then the high priest, this is Acts chapter 5, verse 17. Then the high priest rose up, all those who were with him, which is the sect of the Sadducees. And they were filled with indignation and laid hands on the apostles, all 12 of them, laid hands on the apostles, put them in the common prison. But at night, an angel of the Lord opened the prison doors and then brought them out and said, "Go stand in the temple, speak to the people all the words of this life." And when they heard that, they entered the temple early in the morning and taught. But the high priest and those who were with him came, called the council together with all the elders of the children of Israel, and sent to the prison to have them brought out. Probably this morning in this message, hey, I'm not preaching at you. I'm really not. This is not about preaching at you. But I'm so upset about this that for my own life and trying to assimilate all this into my own life that I'll probably spend a lot of time looking at the back wall or maybe looking up and acting like you're not here. Because this sermon may not even be for you. It just probably may be just for me. It has to do with futility. If you don't know what that means, there's lots of words that describe that and can be used in place of futility. There are words, of course, like fruitlessness. No fruit is born out of it. You do all of this and get nothing out of it because it's futile. There are words like vain. It's vain to do that. You work like a dog to pull something off, but it's like forces are against you and nothing comes out of it. And it was just you wasted your time because it was vain. It was futile. There's words like useless, where I give everything I've got to something, and when it all ends up, I get nothing out of it because it was just a waste. It was a useless use of my energy. I just spin my wheels and get nothing done. Words like unsuccessful, words like waste, unprofitable, Words like ineffective, all of those are a part of this futility idea, that you're going up against something and you waste all your life, you waste your energy, you waste your money, it's futile. You're just spinning your wheels. There are so many stories in the Old Testament about that kind of thing. For instance, one of the biggest, I suppose, that you would be the most familiar with, and we've gone over this lots of times, but the idea of Moses. Moses, miracles took place after his birth. I mean, a baby, and he's saved. I mean, the Pharaoh gave an edict that all the baby boys in Israel should be slaughtered, and yet this guy is saved. I mean, that's phenomenal. What would you say to Pharaoh? You could say to Pharaoh, what you did was futile. You killed all the baby boys, and yet here's a guy that survived it. Here's a guy that God intervened. Here's a guy, you went up against the will of God, and God did something in spite of you, and literally everything you did, all your authority and all your strength was futile. It was a waste of time, Pharaoh. You're fighting a battle that you can't win, Pharaoh. It's futile. In fact, it is so phenomenal what happened in Moses' life that he's brought right into the court of Pharaoh, raised in Pharaoh's house by Pharaoh's daughter, has the whole education and perspective of Egypt, and has a position in the authority of Egypt, and knows all this time, taught by his mother, knows all this time that he is to be a deliverer for the slaves that Israel is. So, 40 years of age, he decides, it's time to do something about this. And can you believe it? He acted on his own. It was a futile attempt. What a waste of time. What are you doing, Moses? Come on. You bypassed the sovereign power of God and went out on your puny little self and killed one Egyptian guard, buried him. They found out about it, and you had to run for your life. What a waste of time. He spent 40 years, he was 40 years of age then. He spent 40 years in the desert taking care of sheep. That was waste of time. Futile. Finally, there's a bush burning. Whoa. That's not consumed. Moses goes over. God talks to him. Get back down there. I'm going to empower you. Get back down there to Egypt and tell Pharaoh, I am that I am has sent you, and that he'd better line up or things aren't going to work out too well. And all your attempts, Pharaoh, are going to be futile, useless, waste of time. You're not going to pull this off. You're not going to win on this, boy. You're just not going to win. So Moses goes down there and talks to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh laughs at him because Pharaoh thinks he's a god. Pharaoh thinks he has all power. Pharaoh thinks he's in charge. Pharaoh, you're not in charge. All your little efforts are futile, waste of time. You're up against a sovereign God, Jehovah, and you're not going to come out on top on this thing. But Pharaoh won't admit it, and he forms his hand into a fist, shakes it in the face of God, and the 10 plagues come. Now, you understand the plagues were not a day. It wasn't a week. It was months. Egypt is plagued. For instance, it started out with the Nile River, and every one of these plagues is designed to conquer one of the gods of Israel, one of the gods of Egypt. See, Egypt has a pagan nation, so they have all these gods. One of their gods was the Nile River. Why did they worship that? Because it fertilized everything in their country. All of their gardens grew from the Nile River. It flooded and put fertilization on all of their land. It was their life support, the Nile River. God moved and caused the Nile River to run with blood for 7 days. All the fish died. Everybody who drank from the Nile River died. The stench was horrible. Moses comes back to Pharaoh, says, Pharaoh, you're not going to win on this. You're not going to come out on top. Let my people go. I will not. That's a futile attempt. You're up against a sovereign God, and there is no chance in the world you're going to pull this off, Pharaoh. Come on, wise up. What's your problem? You're going down, boy. Second plague. Pharaoh wouldn't bend. Second plague takes place. Know what it was? Frogs. I'm not talking about a frog or two. I'm not talking about 5 or 10 frogs. I'm talking about frogs. I'm talking about everywhere are frogs. You open up the cabinet, 15 frogs jump out at you. Oh, you go to your stove, good night, frogs. You cook something, frogs in my food. Frogs everywhere. You walk outside, whoops, just stepped on a frog. Frogs are everywhere, plagued with frogs. Moses comes back. Pharaoh, let my people go. You're not going to win on this. Your little attempt, your rebellion against God is absolutely futile. You're not going to come out on top, son. You're fighting a battle you're going to lose. Let my people go. He says, I will not. Third plague, lice. Don't you love it? The dust of the ground, think of this, the dust of the ground turned to lice. Everywhere you went, lice. Oh, lice. They're eating at me. It's all over me. It's everywhere. My kids, my hand. I go to bed full of it. Everywhere I go, lice. The dust of the ground has all turned to lice. Moses comes back. Pharaoh, let my people go. Come on. You're not going to win. You're fighting a battle you're going to lose. I'm telling you, there's a sovereign God. His name is Jehovah. And you're in trouble, Pharaoh. You double up your fist and come on. There's no, you're going down, boy. Let my people go. He says, I will not. Pestilence. Fourth plague. Fourth plague. Flies. Not a fly or two, not a dozen flies, not, well, get some screens. I'm talking swarms of flies everywhere. It like turned the sky black. It's like everywhere you go, the house, the walls are lined with them. Everywhere you, oh, flies, you open your mouth, whoop, just swallowed one. There's flies everywhere. Moses goes to Pharaoh. Let my people go, Pharaoh. You're not going to win, son. I'm telling you, you're going down, boy. This is futile. You're fighting a battle. You're spinning your wheels. You cannot win on this. You just can't win, Pharaoh. Let my people go. He says, no. Fifth plague. Pestilence on the animals. Go out to get my oxen. Oop, he's dead. Go out to get my sheep. Whoop, they're dead. Go out to get my oxen. Whoa, they're dead. Everywhere I go, pestilence, disease had come upon the animals and all over Egypt land. They're all dying. What? Moses comes to Pharaoh. Let my people go. You think he's going to? Oh, sixth plague. Moses took ashes, threw them into the air, and they floated across Egypt land, and everybody got boils. Oh, I can't sit boils. I can't stand boils. Boils everywhere. I got to hold my arms out. I got boils. Hey, don't touch me. I got boils. Can you imagine the agony? Everybody, what? Moses comes to Pharaoh. Let my people go. You're not going to win, son. This is futile. You're fighting a battle. You can't, what? Come on, wise up, boy. What's your problem? Don't you get it? I will not let your people go. Seventh plague, hail. Not a little bit, a lot. I'm talking lightning. I'm talking the whole earth is, whoa, don't go outside. I mean, it's beating the living daylights out of my roof. I'm telling you, hail. Let my people, no! Pharaoh, what are you doing, boy? Eighth plague, locusts. The sky again turned black. Grasshoppers everywhere. I'm talking. I know John the Baptist ate grasshoppers, but there's too many. They're eating us. What is going on? All the crops are wiped out. Locusts everywhere. I mean, day after day after day. What? Moses comes to Pharaoh. Let my people go. Pharaoh, this is futile, man. You're wasting your time. You're killing yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Come on, Pharaoh. You're pulling the rug out from under yourself. Pharaoh, you're spinning your wheels. Pharaoh, this is futile. You're not going to win on this, son. You're going down, boy. Your battle, it's futile. 9th plague, darkness. Oh, we've all experienced darkness, but no, not like this. This was dark darkness. This is like you can't see your hand and you can't see anything. It is so dark you can't go outside. You can't walk in your room. They were bound in their houses for 3 days because of darkness. Moses comes to Pharaoh. Let my people go. Moses said, you're fighting a losing battle, Pharaoh. Come on. The sovereign God Jehovah is in charge. You're puny in comparison to him. Your wisdom is nowhere on his level. Don't you understand your strength is so small? Pharaoh, you're wasting your time. Pharaoh, come on. It's futile. Absolutely futile. I will not. Death angel passes over. All the firstborn are dead in Egypt. Moses comes. Let my people go. Okay. You're finally wising up, boy. Okay. So all of Israel, hundreds of thousands of them, are marching out of Egypt land. They come to the Red Sea. God, this is not like a trickle. This is not like a creek. This is the Red Sea. And God parts those waters, and they walk right through that thing in dry ground. Woo-hoo. Pharaoh says, I've changed my mind. What? Are you a bloomin' idiot? What's your problem? Don't you know God is sovereign? What are you doing? He got 600 of his chariots. Each one had a captain, his best men on him. And they came after Israel. Bring those people back here. I'm not gonna. What? What are you doing, Pharaoh? God literally plagued the chariots. Their wheels fell off. Their horses went lame. They finally made it to the Red Sea. When they got into the Red Sea, they followed Israel on the dry ground. But Israel had already gotten to the other side. And as they were, all the 600 chariots and horses were in the middle of the Red Sea. And they all drowned. Pharaoh, duh. Can't you see it? Don't you get it? Pharaoh, you're wasting your time. You're fighting against. Come on, this is futile. You're going down, boy. You're not going to make it. Futile. That's this scene. Here comes the high priest. Here comes the Sadducees. They have come up against 12 apostles, but no, not 12 apostles. They've come up against the sovereign God who has a plan. They've come up against Jesus. Are you guys out of your brain? What are you doing? They've come up against Jesus. Let's go back to the story. Lame beggar's been healed. Wow. Crowd goes crazy. All the temple is swarming and with the news. Everybody's talking about it. These guys are so upset. What are we going to do? They put Peter and John in jail, bring them out, and threaten them. You talk about Jesus again, and you're dead. We're going to hang you on a cross like we did Jesus. I'm telling you, don't ever talk about Jesus again. And Peter looked at these guys and said, you're wasting your time. All your efforts are futile. You're spinning your wheels. Hey, Sadducees. Hey, high priest. You're not going to win on this. There is a sovereign God involved. There is a resurrected Jesus who was alive. And you're going down, son. You're going down. I'm telling you, you're going down. They turned him loose. They went back to the early church. Oh, I love to tell this. They went back to the early church, and they turned to the early church. They didn't hold anything back, these two apostles. They went to the early church and said, let me tell you what's going on. We're all going to die, guys. I'm telling you, they're going to kill us all. If we talk any more about Jesus, if we preach any more about Jesus, if we do any more miracles in Jesus' name, I'm telling you, we're all going to die. They're going to crucify us all. So get ready. And you know what they did? They went into a prayer meeting. And you know how they prayed? The opening words of their prayer was this: Lord, you are God. Now that whole phrase, it's a translation of one Greek word, which is despotes, which is the word despot, which is our word tyrant. You know what they said? Lord, you are a tyrant. You know what this Sadducees, you know what the high priest is up against? A tyrant called God. Now that's negative in our language, but it was positive in their language. They were saying, God, you're in charge. Not these boys. You're in charge. Not my circumstances. You're in charge. You're running the show. We win. Why? Because you are a tyrant. In fact, they went on to describe what they meant. They said, Lord, all the nations, think of this, all the nations, think of the nations in our world. All the nations in the world are snorting horses. What? All the power of Russia? All the power of the United States? The Ukraine? Whoa. Snorting horses. And you're on their back with the reins in the hand, and they're snorting, and they have to do exactly what you tell them to do because you're in charge. You're the sovereign God. And all effort against you is absolutely futile, and they can snort all they want to, but it is a total, absolute waste of time. It is futile because they will not win. You will get done what you want done because you are in charge. You are a tyrant. They went out, they preached like mad, greater than ever. The Spirit of God moved greater than ever. People were won greater than ever. The movement of Jesus was greater than ever. And these boys now have come back and said, we're going to get a hold of them. They didn't keep still about Jesus. They filled the whole of all of Jerusalem with his doctrine. And we're going to go down if we don't stop this thing. So they grabbed the apostles, put them in jail. An angel showed up. Let them all out. How are you going to win on that kind of a deal? Well, we don't even believe in angels. Doesn't matter. See, this doesn't line up with what? Doesn't matter. This is against our... We don't care. Well, this isn't my idea. We don't care what your ideas are. There is a sovereign God, and he is in charge. And you're going down, boys. And you can fight against this all you want to, and you can yell and scream, and you can drag apostles into jail, and you can, but I'm telling you, you are up, this is futile. 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 I know you're not here. How does this apply to my life? Are there any areas, Manley, in your life where You know what a waste of time that is? Are there any things coming at my life where I'm just filled with anxiety? What? Why would I be filled with anxiety if there is a sovereign God and I'm a snorting horse? What's wrong with me? Why don't I take my whole life and just throw it at his feet? Why don't I take all my circumstances and bow them under his control? Why don't I just take my whole being and say, hey, I'm in? Because every act of resistance in my life, I'm not looking at you, every act of resistance in my life is futile. There's no way I'm going to win. Now, this is strongly presented in verse 21. See, they're in jail. Put them in a common prison according to verse 18, the apostles. And at night, according to verse 19, this angel shows up, opens the prison doors, brought them out, and said, go, stand in the temple, speak to the people, all the words of this life. Then look at this, verse 21. You got a contrast going on. It says, when the apostles, they heard that, they entered the temple early in the morning and taught. So they followed, they did exactly, they didn't run away, they didn't save themselves. This was not security for them. They weren't thinking about their comfort. Hey, you go down to the temple, you're going to get caught and back in jail. I know, all the threats are going to be real. You're not, I understand, but there is a sovereign God, so it doesn't matter. So we're going back to the temple and do what the angel told us to do. So they're down there teaching about Jesus in the temple. And then you note the next word right in the middle of the verse. But, which is the contrast. So here's the apostles coming under the authority of the sovereign God, but here's these guys, here's these 4-year-olds, here's these idiotic, here's these snorting horses, but the high priest and those with him came and called the council with all the elders of the... Do you know how out of it they are? Here the apostles are down there teaching in the temple, and this crowd over here, the Sadducees and the high priest, they go down to their little room and get around their little oak table and say, okay, we're ready for it. Go down to the prison and get them. Well, God, they're not there. You don't have sense enough to know you have already lost. That the angels already showed up. Well, we don't believe in angels. The angels already showed up. You're already spinning your wheels. You're already down the tubes. Meet around your oak table. Well, what are we going to do? Well, you're not going to do anything because there is a sovereign God who's in charge, and you're going down, boy. That's the passage. Let me break it down a little for you. Number one, foolishness. I've been called a fool. A lot of foolishness. Foolishness. See, these guys, the high priest, these guys, you know who they are? These boys are the intellectual, the wealthy, live in Jerusalem, top-notch Jews of their hour. Do you realize they have memorized the first 5 books of the Old Testament by the time they're 12? I memorized the first verse of the first book. They memorized, can you imagine memorizing Leviticus? No, that's right. These boys know their history. See, they knew all about Moses and Pharaoh and 10 plagues, and they knew about the wilderness wandering. They knew what God had done. They knew about manna coming down from the sky. They knew about quail in the bush. They knew that God didn't let their clothes wear out. They knew all of that. They knew that even the land that they said was theirs, they never bought it. They didn't pay for it. How did they get it? God gave it to them. See, they knew that everything they had came from Him. Their history. They celebrated the feast days, which were the feast days that celebrated those kind of occasions. They knew that God defeated the enemies. They knew that God gave them victory. They knew all of that. They knew that. And here they are. What? What would you call that?
Futile.
Exactly. And futility, folks, is foolish. Foolish. And they go right on. In fact, you need to understand, their ancestors did the same thing. Can you imagine coming out of Egypt and experiencing, you're an Israelite, and you've experienced all the movement of God in 10 plagues. You took the sacrificed lamb, slit his throat, put blood on the doorpost, and your firstborn didn't die. Whoa! You were there when the Red Sea, and you marched. Can you imagine that? You needed water, and God brought water out of a rock. You were there and went out and gathered up the manna in the morning. God made provision after provision after provision, and you've experienced it. Wouldn't you fall at His feet and say, whoa? No, they wandered in the wilderness around in circles for 40 years, and all of them died, and only 2, Caleb and Joshua, got into the promised land. What? Why would they do that? Don't you feel like just grabbing them by the throat? What is your problem? And you understand God was not mad. In fact, Jesus, in chapter 23 of Matthew, preached a sermon and gave the 7 woes to the Pharisees and ended that whole thing with his expression of his heart. He said, "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the ones who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children like a hen gathers her chicks under her wings. And you wouldn't." Wow. Come on, man. What's your problem? High priest, why wouldn't you bow at the feet of Christ? Sadducees, why wouldn't you say, oh. What would it take? What would it take to get it done? What would it take in my life for me to totally, absolutely yield myself? What would it take for me to abandon what would it take? An angel? How about 2? Would you go for 3? How about 4? See, what would God have to do in your life until you would say, hey, no more resistance, no more futility, no more, wow, no more, no more. I don't want to ever be the fool again. Why do I do that? What is it in an individual? What would be in a Pharaoh that would? That's the second idea. Foolishness, fullness of self. See, Pharaoh thought he was God. Yeah, there's lots of gods, but I'm sure one of them, probably better than most. He even had statues for himself, and you were supposed to bow at the statues. Little shrines. Bow to Pharaoh. Put his image on a coin. Oh. Pharaoh, you're no God. What do you pretend that you're some kind of God strutting around doing. But guys, I've done that. Oh, I know you're not here. Walked around like I was somebody, like I was in charge and in control. COVID comes along and wipes me out. I'm really in charge, aren't I? What? Come on. I've never been in charge. There's a sovereign God who is. And he has proven himself again and again and again. And this is not, well, you rebel against me and I'll smash you kind of stuff. This is, why would you rebel against me when I'm for you? Manley, why would you go up against me, act like you're in charge when I have plans for you? Why, Manley, why would you strut around like you have some kind of power or something when, I have dreams that I want you to fulfill? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? So, Manley, get in your chariot, go to the Red Sea, your wheels will fall off and you'll drown. You're not going to win. Lord, it's like my whole life you've been trying to teach me this one single lesson. You haven't been trying to straighten out my theology. You haven't been trying to get me to get some activity called baptism. You haven't even been trying to just get me to come to church. My whole life, you have been trying to teach me. To go against you. Not to belong to you. Not to give my life to you. It's futility. And again, it's not that you're mad at me, but you have dreams for me. And I pray for all of us today, God. From the best saint here to the worst sinner here. Wherever we are, you are aggressively pulling us to yourself. We've been through the plagues. Yeah. We've shaken our fist in your face and we've been through the plagues. Our wheels have fallen off. And could this be a moment, oh God? Could this be a moment in my life, in our lives, where we throw in the towel? Where we look at ourselves and say, this is dumb. This is ridiculous. I'm going to be yours, Jesus. I don't know where that's going to take me, but it doesn't matter because you're a sovereign God. You're in charge. I surrender all anxiety, all worry, all circumstances. I give you my future. My fist is down. Fulfill your dreams in me. Heads are bowed. I know you're not here. You're not here. But I've got to respond to this. I've got to get on my knees. I don't want any resistance in my life. The foolishness, the futility. I want to be His. You want to join me? Altar's open.
Lord, I come, I confess, bowing here, I find my rest, and without you, I fall apart. You're the one that guides my heart. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Where sin runs deep, your grace is more. Where grace is found is where you are. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. One more time. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you.
You may be seated. Thank you for your kindness. I'm not sure. I want to try to express something to you. I'm not sure how, if you, and what this will mean to you, but I'm not sure you understand how important you are to us as an individual. And I know it's easy to just be a part of the crowd and one of the program or whatever, but how important you are. See, I really believe that he is a tyrant, meaning that he has absolutely fixed himself to your life and is just manipulating circumstances and situations and things in your life. And not that he causes it, but he's using those circumstances to somehow move me and you into a yieldedness to him where we will let him fulfill his dream in our lives. And when you filter that down to us here, that means that you're not here by accident. You didn't just happen to choose Cross Style Center, Life Recovery. We prayed, we desired, and you came. Which means there's eternal, sovereign destiny involved in you being here. Whoa! Isn't that neat? Because he's trying to do something in our lives together. That's phenomenal. So this is not just, oh, how's the program going? This is not just, well, yeah, life is good. Well, how's the job? Yeah, good. Yeah. See, this is, whoa. Angels are showing up, which is really neat. Really neat. And I want to be, see, this is not how much money did we get. This is not how much salary do I get paid. This is, wow, I get to be a part of this. So thank you. Thank you for your obedience and response and involvement. We will be here Wednesday again, probably talking about this same thing a little bit. And we appreciate the guitar player. Wow, thank you. It beats anything I can do, I'll tell you that. And thank you for our cook. We got a new cook, John, and we're grateful for what he's doing. And we're wanting to expand the food thing, whatever it is. We're wanting to expand it and make it more fruitful and meaningful because we're getting a lot of food and we want you to have it. We want you to get fat. Some of you have already accomplished it. Okay. Oh. And I think Scott has something he wants to. We've been doing a podcast, kind of is it a podcast? Is that what it is? It's on the on our website, right?
We've been doing some work on Facebook lately.
Okay.
So what we're doing is, past few weeks, I've been doing some filming and talking with our graduates, and those videos are up for viewing now on Facebook at the Cross Style Life Recovery Program, available on Facebook.
Wonderful.
We've also got a YouTube channel. You can check out some videos there. We've got tons of content on our Facebook page, and we've got tons more content coming up. So keep your eye out for the Cross Style Life Recovery Program page, and you'll see some of the graduates, and we got more, like I said, we got more content, some more pictures and stuff coming up. So guys, just keep your eye out and check it out.
Okay, good. Want to mention again, Friday night, no pressure. Nobody has to come. It's a class that we're teaching. I had the first one on the course of Christology this last Friday. It meets at 6 o'clock, and we're an hour and a half. We're here an hour and a half We're studying Christology out of Matthew chapter 1 and chapter 2, which has to do, obviously, with who Jesus is. And, of course, he's the center of everything, and understanding him, the more you understand him, the more you understand yourself and what he wants to accomplish in your own personal life. So that's available to you on Friday night as well. Thank you for your generosity in giving. You really help us. So we appreciate you in your financial giving in the buckets back here. And I want to encourage you. You have a job. I know you probably set up a budget. Maybe you don't. But you have certain amounts you got to pay for food, certain amounts you got to pay for program, certain amount. Jesus ought to fit into that somewhere. You know? I mean, you don't want to give him leftovers. You know. He ought to fit into that someplace. So, hey, no pressure. Just think about it. And I want to encourage you in systematic giving. In other words, the idea of I'm going to dedicate this amount, and of course the Old Testament standard was 10%, but I'm going to dedicate this amount to God and give it every week out of my paycheck. Be a good thing to do. Well, thank you for letting me be with you. Just sit still.